hit. It could be worse than a little Zen book, of course, even a bad one. I don't know what the typical teenage girl reads, but I am grateful that this one reads Zen instead. She is settled on the grass near the lake, and I join her. I flip through her book enough to confirm that it's a piece of crap. When you boil water for rice, remember that the water is your own life. And having nothing better to do, begin to read. Wow, she whispers to herself after a few minutes. I look up to see if she wants to share whatever has caught her attention, although I already know what it is. The page is dog-eared, the spine flops open to it, and the passage is framed in faded yellow highlighted. She reads aloud the clearly marked passage ascribed to Buddha. I know it well, but it's pleasant to hear it read by someone for whom it's new. I will obtain the ultimate truth and ultimate reality, she reads slowly, thoughtfully. That is the ultimate aim of my life in this world, whether my body may remain with me or go to pieces. My bones and flesh may go into complete annihilation or remain with me. I shall obtain the true form of the universe. Through innumerable incarnations, good results, I have obtained a human body. I will not lose this golden opportunity and will certainly obtain samadhi and the real form of consciousness. Calamity may come or go, mountains may break upon my head, but I will not leave my promise to obtain nirvana. She sets the book down and just stares off beyond the lake. I too relax into a quiet reverie. That's a very nostalgic passage for me. It's the reason I chose that book to bring. The writing of my book is making me take a look back into my own journey of awakening, in which that particular statement of purpose played an important role. I resonated with it when I first read it all those years ago, and made a point of rereading it often. If I wanted to pass it on to a student today, I'd probably trim it back a bit, but I'd leave the intensity of the commitment intact. That passage figured largely in my efforts to define and state my intent way back when, and it didn't hurt to have a heavyweight in the Enlightenment game to identify with either. Mountains may break upon my head, she whispers to herself. After a few minutes, she picks the book up and thumbs through it. Do you do yoga? She asks. No. Basically, that book is a souvenir from an earlier time in my life. I went through a lot of books back then, but I held on to that one because of the part you just read. As you can see, it's a pretty moldy and tattered book. It spent a lot of time in pockets. She smiles appreciatively. You don't like my book, though, do you? The conversation turns. This is what happens. Is she asking me a question, or just shooting the breeze with Mystic Jed? I don't particularly want to slide into the teacher groove, unless that's what she's asking me to do. I'm never comfortable going there without a pretty clear signal. I'm afraid I'll come off like one of those people who you ask, "How you doing?" and they spend the next hour actually telling you. Just not my kind of thing, I say, skirting. You're not into Zen? Oh, boy. I lay back with my hands behind my head and mark the passage of a cloud that looks like Marilyn Monroe when the air vent blows up her skirts. Or maybe it's a Rorschach cloud, and my interpretation is warning me about dallying in the grass with pretty young females. Really, she says, I'm interested. Well, that's all it takes to get me rolling, but I'm still reserved. There are two Zens, I say. One Zen sells books and miniature sand gardens and calligraphy sets and little Buddha statues. The other Zen is about enlightenment. My book is the bad one, huh? She asks. I laugh. Yeah, it's the bad one. I just started learning about Zen a few months ago, she explains. It seems really cool. I've read a bunch of books about it, and I went to a meeting where a Japanese man talked about it. Do you think all the books I read were like this one? Depends what you got from them. Zen has a very alluring patina to it. People find it very attractive to read about Zen and maybe practice Zazen meditation. Have you bought all the special pillows yet? She has. What else? The little sand garden, she admits with a self-conscious smile. A statue of Hotai, the laughing Buddha. Yeah, I like that one too, I say. So, that's nice. You enjoy it. You like reading about it. And you can accessorize. There's nothing wrong with that. But it's not really Zen, is what you're saying. No, it's not really Zen. It's more like Zen's pretty cousin. Real Zen isn't pretty, and you don't need any books for it. That's the long and the short of it. I didn't want to come down on Jolene's new hobby too harshly, but I have a real love-hate relationship with Zen. Rather, I love Zen and hate new Zen. Real Zen is about the hot and narrow pursuit of enlightenment, the shortest distance between asleep and awake. No rules, no ceremonies, no teachings, just the muddy, bloody battle of waking up. New Zen, the Zen that drives a publishing and merchandising industry, is all about being asleep and staying asleep. Of course, by saying this, I'm risking the wrath of all those sunshine enthusiasts who believe that Zen is something you read about and practice and eventually master, as if Zen was a hobby or a religion or a social activity, as if Zen was something that could be done in addition to anything else, as if Zen was about being mindful or mindless or present or silent. But if they're truly interested in waking up, then those miffed Zen buffs are exactly the people who should be grateful for this wake-up call, because they're the ones who wanted to make a journey and were duped into sitting down and going nowhere by Zen's pretty cousin. The decisive test is always the same. How many enlightened? No ifs, ands, or buts. No other objective or benefit is of the slightest interest. Where is the steady outflow of awakened beings? Ugly Zen has them, and pretty Zen doesn't. Period. So, it's like Zen's evil twin, she says. I laugh at that. Yeah, the evil twin bonked the good twin on the head and banished him to a distant island where the evil twin sold out for fame and fortune and took over the world. We idly play with that scenario for a few minutes, stretching it further and further, just enjoying the ease of the moment and the warmth of the sun. Everybody knows you're a mystic, Jolene says, shifting gears on me. Why do you say you're not? I let out a groan as I sit up and wrap my arms around my knees. Okay. I'll answer you if you tell me what you like about Zen. Okay, she says brightly. Well, when Mr. Yamamata was here, he spoke... I interrupt. Mr. Yamamata or Yamamata Roshi? Yeah, Yamamata Roshi. He talked about one-pointedness and life in a Zen monastery and all sorts of things that sounded really interesting. He told a lot of great stories about people who would do Zen and then just out of the blue, bam, they'd be enlightened. Maybe someone would say just exactly the right thing at just the right time and bam. Yeah, pretty cool, huh? It was. She was up on her knees now, excited. He talked about the history of Zen and all that, and he showed us a video about his monastery in North Carolina, and it all just seemed, I don't know, really cool. So you started reading about it, and you did some online shopping. I bought a book from the people who sponsored his visit, and yeah, I went online and picked up the pillows and some other books. The sand garden I got at a store in Iowa City, and some used books about Zen and Buddhism, too. Did he say what enlightenment was? I asked. She thinks about this for a minute. He talked about samadhi, or was it satori? You think I'm silly, don't you? I laugh. No, I like Zen too. I liked it long before I understood it, kind of the same way you do now. Your turn, she says. I remember our deal. Okay, but you may not find it very interesting. I say I'm not a mystic because I'm not. Or maybe just a minor one. It's actually a pretty confusing issue, but what I am is different from being a mystic. What are you? I'm enlightened. And that's not the same as being a mystic? No. They sound like the same thing, but once you actually get into it, there's a big difference. Which is better? Being enlightened, right? Oh yeah, definitely. Mystics suck. Enlightened guys rule. She laughs and pushes me. I laugh too. No, really, she says. What's the difference? No, really, I mimic her. It's not that interesting. She settles down and meets my gaze levelly. Can I say something, please? I don't know how I got so lucky that a few months after I start, getting interested in Zen and spirituality and everything, that I wind up spending an afternoon with... She falters a bit. It's like God or the universe or my higher self or whatever is saying that I'm doing something really good. It's saying, here, you want to know, so here's the guy. Here's your chance. So I'm sitting here with you, and you're very nice and everything, but you're also probably... This is weird. Seriously, you're what everybody... She is trembling and on the edge of tears. You're really, truly enlightened, aren't you? No messing around. I mean, I know you are. You're really it, aren't you? I'm rarely taken aback. I consider her carefully before responding. Yes, Jolene, I say. I'm really it. She's nodding her head, absorbing, processing. Yeah. See what I mean? That's what I mean. I mean, what are the odds? I watch her for a moment, admiring the depth of sincerity in her eyes. Okay, I say. I understand. So the thing is, I know I'm young, and I don't get it, and you're being really cool with me, but I do want to know. I am interested. I don't want to be just another... What's like the Buddha said, I will not lose this golden opportunity. She falls silent, her lower jaw quivering, and her eyes moist. And so we sat there for the next several hours while I solemnly answered her questions about the difference between enlightenment and the many varieties and degrees of mysticism, about the difference between the real Zen and the Zen that sells books, about Hinduism and meditation and Christianity and Native Americans and the American transcendentalists, about whether Brad Pitt could possibly be any greater, and all sorts of lofty things. But mostly we talked about Plato's cinema. End of Disc 3.